Welcome to Garden Wise Adventures. My name is Malie and today is an exciting day. I've been doing an indoor gardening series and it is finally time to do my first salad. Now we don't have tomatoes or cucumbers ready, but they are progressing really nicely, so eventually we'll be able to add tomatoes and cucumbers to our salad. But I wanted to show you what we're going to be able to add to my salad today and show you what my garden room is looking like. Now, I live in Utah, zone 6/7. We've had a pretty mild winter so far, and we've had snow since Thanksgiving, and it's just recently melted, and it's near Christmas time. We've got several weeks of unseasonably warm weather ahead of us. So there are things outdoors that we can also harvest, but I wanted to focus on what we're harvesting indoors. Now, let me show you what we have, and I'll link a playlist up above that shows you what I'm growing and how I'm growing them, and let's get harvesting. So the first thing I wanted to show you is my radishes. Now this was a radish growing experiment. We grew radishes in our hydroponic units. We have a Devo unit right there, and then we have a AeroGarden unit there. And the radishes in the hydroponic units far surpassed, as in harvest time, far surpassed than the ones grown in soil. So this pot right here has a package of rainbow radishes planted in it. You can see the size of some of these. Some of them are a little farther behind. This is day number 37 on these radishes. The other radishes were harvested a week and a half to 2 weeks ago. Got some more in here. Some of them are a little skinny, but we'll harvest some of these and show you what they look like. The other thing that I have ready is I can pluck a few leaves off of my dill. These are dill. They're going to continue growing. These are only 22 days along. We took some perpetual onions out of my garden, planted them in here, and they're ready to harvest to put in my salad. And these are my salad greens. We have a mesclun mix and a cutting lettuce mix in here. Now these are being grown on a wicking mat. Let's show you what the roots look like. So they just spread out on the wicking mat and get water there. And I absolutely love this. So this is going to be the first cutting, and I usually get about 4 cuttings off of lettuce like this. When we get to the second cutting, what I'll do is I'll start another tray of lettuce. So once one is done, we have another tray ready to go, and I'll have salads all year long. So that is what we're going to harvest for my salad today. That's what we have ready. The other thing that we have ready to harvest, although we've been harvesting them for quite a while, are my kale. So I have a curly kale. I have a larger kale. So this was a mixed packet of kale, of just a bunch of different hardy kale. So I don't know exactly which type this is, but we've got the curly leaf kale, and I think I've got a red Russian kale in the back there. And we've also got some chard that I've been harvesting. So these have been growing indoors since September. They were part of a batch that I grew for outside to grow over the winter. And these are the leftovers that I've been harvesting indoors. Now we'll show you what the tomatoes look like. This is a tomato growing experiment that I'm doing. We've got tomatoes growing in hydroponic units, and we've got tomatoes growing in soil. Now I've heard a lot of people say that vegetables grown hydroponically grow 3 to 4 times faster and produce 3 to 4 times faster than vegetables grown in pots. So let's show you the size here. These have been totally grown in soil. They were started in soil, and these were grown hydroponically. So the size is about the same, but let me show you the flowers. The tomatoes here have just barely started to flower. We've got some buds on this one back here. This is an ink spot, and this one is an orange hat. So we've just barely got flowers starting on these, and these were grown in soil. Let me show you these down here. These are Golden Harvest. They have been grown exactly the same amount of time. They're just a larger plant. We've got flowers here. So we've had flowers on these a little bit longer than the other ones grown in soil. So we're going to get tomatoes on these pretty shortly. But the plants that we have grown hydroponically, if you'll notice, we have little tomatoes forming. So they're not extremely far ahead. They're about a week to a week and a half ahead of the other tomatoes. And that's just in production, not in size. Got little tomatoes right here, so I'm excited. We're going to have tomato harvest. So these are orange hat tomatoes. This tall one right here is an ink spot, and the other one over there is an orange hat. So we've got tomatoes that we're going to be harvesting. I've also got some peppers. Now let me show you the difference in size of pots. So I started all my peppers at the same time. These are extras. This one's a Doe Hill, I think. Yeah, this is a Doe Hill, which is a really small orange bell pepper. This is an Antohi, which is another sweet pepper. But let me show you the ones that I transplanted into larger pots. When you're growing indoors, you need to transplant your plants into larger pots as soon as possible. This is the Doe Hill. This is the Antohi, planted the exact same time as the other plants that I showed you. They were just transplanted earlier, and I will be harvesting peppers off of these in another month or so. They do mature a little more slowly than the tomatoes do and produce a little more slowly, but once they've started producing, all of these will be able to be moved outdoors. I can leave them in the pots or I can transplant them into the ground. Now here are my cucumbers. They're also at 22 days. So they're starting to grow really nicely. They're going to grow up the net in the back there. And these are my peas. Now these peas are 22 days old along with the rest of them. My daughter has been growing and producing peas on the same kind of netting, the same size pot, in a rack that's the size of this one. Now her rack, she left all of the shelving units on it, so she just shoves the pot under the shelving unit and lets the lights from the upper levels shine on it, and the peas just grow all through the netting that she has woven in there. And she harvests peas, and she has done that for about a year now and gets quite good harvests indoors. Her apartment is a basement apartment with very little windows in it, so all of the light that her plants get are from her grow lights. So now that we've showed you what's growing, let's show you how we do our harvest. So when I harvest these greens, what I do is I just grab a bunch of them. These are cut and come again greens. I don't like to grow lettuce heads indoors because that's just kind of seems like a waste of space to me. I like to be able to get multiple harvests. So we'll just cut as much as I think I need for a few days. So this is what it looks like when it's harvested. You can see that I cleaned all the leaves off the mat so we don't get any algae growth. But we'll harvest these next in another couple of days, and then we'll just continue harvesting these until they're almost done and start another tray. That's enough for a few days of salad for me, maybe 2 or 3. So the next thing that we're going to do is just pinch off a couple of the onions, a couple of the green onions, and put those in my salad. I love green onions in the salad. Now there's really not too much dill here to harvest, but we can take a leaf or two. So we'll just pinch off a leaf, maybe 2. Make sure not to pinch too far down on any of these because you have the growth points that will continue to grow. The growth points are down near the soil level with all of the things that I just harvested, with the lettuce, with the onions, and with the dill. So we'll just cut a few little leaflets of dill in here. And now we're going to harvest my large radish, that large white one. Look at the size of this radish grown in that pot. There's quite a few other radishes in there. Not all of them have reached this size, but the ones in the hydroponic units were close to this size. So hydroponic units are growing in soil. Either one is a good way to grow radishes. The hydroponic unit grown radishes, though, do tend to grow faster. And when I say faster, they only were faster by a couple of weeks. Now this is one of the red radishes that I harvested out of my hydroponics unit, and let's test the flavor of these. So I'm going to go cut up the white one and this red one, and then we'll see if there's any difference in flavor between hydroponically grown radishes and soil grown radishes. So here we have a handful of radishes. We'll sprinkle them over my salad to eat later, but we have the soil grown radish and the hydroponically grown radish. So let me taste each one and see which one is better. Excellent flavor, nice crispness, and a little bit of sharpness. So that was a champion radish, and that's one of the few red radishes that I like, and I grow those both outdoors and indoors. So now let's taste this one that was out of my multicolored radish seed packet. So I'm not exactly sure on the variety on these, but let's see what this white one tastes like that was grown in soil. That one definitely has a sharper bite, but I think that's variety. And it's also crunchy, sweet. The red radish was also sweet. Now, I don't think there's any appreciable differences between the ones grown in the soil and grown hydroponically. So there's a lot of people who worry that hydroponically grown vegetables are not going to have the same flavor. And I say don't worry about that. They seem to be just fine. The tomatoes that have been grown in my hydroponic units in the past versus the ones grown in the soil have all had the same flavor, and they've all been just as good. So you need to choose how to grow your vegetables indoors the ways that are the best for you. Now the next videos that I'm going to do on indoor gardening is going to go over pests, because there is a difference between the pests grown in the hydroponic units and the ones grown in soil. And we'll go over the ways that I figured out how to reduce pest pressure and the pests that I have had in my grow room and why I think I've had some of them. So I would love to hear what you're growing indoors. Now, I have mentioned it in another video, but there are a couple of small YouTube channels that are hosting an indoor grow challenge. That's Mike's Chaotic Gardening, and I think it's JT Grows Alaska. I'll put the name of those channels on the screen, and I'll link their channels down below. So I would love to hear what you're growing indoors. It's definitely not too late to start growing things indoors. These are 37 days from start. In the hydroponic units, we harvest them around 23 days, and the rest of these are at 22 days. Tomatoes take a little bit longer, but you could be harvesting tomatoes in a couple of months after you plant them. So hopefully this video has been helpful to you. If it has been helpful, I hope you like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and go have a wonderful garden adventure.